Well, guys, that's us not long finished the interview and the editing process. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is as we were trialing some new mics. You might hear some rustling throughout the video. It's Toby Stubble hitting off the mic, but obviously we're new to this. We've never really done an interview before, but to be honest with you, it's not really that noticeable. It's noticeable for me because it was me that obviously edited it, but as far as I'm concerned, it seems to be pretty decent. The mic quality is pretty good, and obviously the interview is around about 40 minutes, so we'll get into it, let you guys watch that. Please like, share and subscribe. If you've got any other questions for Toby, please leave them below, or like I say, email, Facebook, whatever. If you want to give us a message, we can maybe even look at doing a part 2 of this interview as well. Alright, so keep it gold-blooded and enjoy the interview. Right, well, thanks very much for coming.
No bother.
Long awaited interview. So we'll start off with asking just the normal questions then. What got you into ice hockey?
I started probably when I was about 8 or 10. I used to go and watch with my dad at Lam Road, when it was the Bruins. But my big cousin also played. So I used to go and watch him playing. But also played football at that time. And I was starting to enjoy the hockey a bit more. So I had to make a decision. So I went with hockey. So I played at Ayr up until I was about 16, with juniors. And if I remember rightly, there was back in the day, there wasn't like a 12s, 14s, 16s. It was just 16 and under.
Mm-hmm.
So you were training with obviously guys a lot bigger than you. 16, 17. I went, it was Danny McAllister, who was coaching at Irvine at the time, asked me and another couple of boys that played at Ayr to go and guest for his team at a tournament down in Durham.
Mm-hmm.
Went and played there. Once you were 16, it was then the only two levels you had above that was the senior team, the Bruins, who played in the Heineken Premier League at the time, and then reserve team. There wasn't under 20s, there was no SNL or anything like that then. So then, once I was too old for the 16s, into the second team, I was the captain of the second team. But then Irvine were putting a team into the British First Division. And Danny was involved and asked me, I think it was one other guy, two other guys for Ayr, went up. And I played 2 games and I just get fed up with it. They trained like something like midnight on a Thursday night. And at that time, if I remember right, they were in the league. There was only Body Kestrels, they had a team in it. And then it was just all English teams. And you're talking like Southampton, Bournemouth. You can't go any further south than you. So I played at home to Medway, played away to the Kestrels, and then I was like, fed up with this. So I stopped, jacked in. And I think about the same time, Air Jets Recce team was just starting up. And they started up with a few boys that worked at the Air Traffic Control Centre at the airport. Boys who had like never skated before, they hired the wee pad at Air, and all they really had was a stick and a tennis ball. And one of the boys I knew and had asked me if I wanted to come in and can I help out in that. So that's really how the Jets started there.
So one of the things I'm going to ask is talk about is obviously a lot of people don't understand that say for example Lincoln Road is 2 pads. They used to have obviously they've got the big pad and then they had the corridor. But obviously Limekiln Road is no longer with us anymore, so it's one of them ones. But how did you? So you were saying that did you used to train in the corridor basically?
Aye, very rarely did you get any training ice like the big ice, because at the weekends, the curling was on the big ice Monday to Friday. Saturday morning, I think it was 2 or 3 figure skating clubs, so they had that to the afternoon. Then there was a skating session. There the odd time you'd maybe get some practice ice between that and the evening session. Sunday morning, when I was very young, you used to get it like maybe 8 or 9 in the morning for an hour, and then it'd be either curling or figure skating, and then the Bruins played at home on a Sunday night. So if you had training during the week, it was in the wee pad, and that's where the Bruins trained.
Aye.
I mean, it's actually mental to think that a team playing in the highest level of British hockey at that time and got to the finals at Wembley trained twice a week on that ice pad.
So to put it into perspective with regards to what we're saying about the corridor is probably the equivalent of if you've been at Braehead before, if you were to look between the red line and the blue line. It's literally...
I think it's only something like 3 curling lanes wide, if that.
Aye, it's like you wouldn't be able to play, like say for example, 5-on-5 in there, and if you did play 5-on-5 in there, it's very, very heads up, shall you say, because as soon as you touch a puck, you're getting nailed.
And it's a bit different now, but back then, one side was just a concrete wall. There was no even any barrier up or anything, it was just a concrete wall. So that's what they train in.
So what made you make the jump to being an official?
Because I was born and brought up in here, at that time there was quite a lot of officials in here. You had Alec McWilliam, George Nicholson, Tam Gillespie, Gordon Perry, Drew Fraser. There's 5 straight away. And me and Gordon Perry grew up in the same street, but I knew all the rest of them. I lived in that ice rink when I was about 8-year-old. And then obviously playing juniors and second team, some of them would be the kind of guys that were refereeing your games. And it was Alec McWilliam got a hold of me one day. He says, "Why don't you come in and start refereeing?" Well, linesman. And my reply at that time to Alec was, and we actually had a laugh about it away last year. My reply to Alec was, "Not a fucking chance. I hate all you. Yous are all fucking assholes." But he kept at me, and I says, "Right, okay, I'll give it a try." He says, "No, you'll not give it a try. If you want to do it, you've got to be all in, not just, well, I'll see." So all that summer, every Friday night, I went over to Alex's, and he'd an old blackboard, chalk, everything like that, the layout of a rink, and go through different things, go round the rule book. Maybe done that for an hour and a half on a Friday night before we were going away into town or whatever. And the beginning of the following season was first year they had an import chief referee in Britain who was Nico Tumen, Dutch guy, who had been a linesman at the Olympics at Lake Placid. Right. So he was coming in, and Alec knew him, because Alec was an international referee and they'd done tournaments together. So Alec got me an invite to the training camp. That was in Nottingham, the old rink in Nottingham. So I went down, and after the training camp, I get straight into the Heineken League for the beginning of that season.
That's quite cool.
And that was 37, 38 years ago.
So what would you say your biggest achievement in refereeing is?
As a linesman, getting my international licence, getting picked to go abroad, done tournaments in France, Holland, Spain, Slovenia. So when you get picked to represent your country, the folk maybe, you're only a linesman or whatever, but you're quite proud of that you've done that. Getting Norwich Union finals, which is probably the equivalent of the Challenge Cup nowadays. Autumn Cup, Benson Hedges Cup, doing the finals.
Was it Benson Hedges Cup at Wembley or anything like that?
No, Benson, if I remember right, the Benson Hedges final was normally at Sheffield. But I think that it was kind of like a Challenge Cup because it had groups, and then obviously whoever won the groups and semi-finals and all that would go to, sure it was Sheffield, Sheffield for the final. Getting picked to do the playoff weekend back then it was at Wembley. The last ever Wembley, I was due to do the final and obviously got injured in the first semi-final on the Saturday. I actually begged them to let me, because it was the last ever Wembley, because the following year was when the Super League was starting. I knew we were going to be doing the final on the Sunday, and I begged them to let me go on the ice, and they wouldn't let me, so I wasn't too happy about that. But refereeing, probably the most memorable game would be, I'm trying to remember what season would be, that 2017 maybe? The playoff final, Cardiff-Sheffield, that I'm pretty sure we were into a third period of overtime. And they played full periods overtime. I'm pretty sure it was into the third period of overtime. Dead in my feet. Luckily enough, I think it was Levi Nelson scored for Sheffield. But that'll be hard to beat for any final to go near enough 2 full games to decide who was winning it. So probably that.
Good. Couple of questions from viewers. Obviously, we've spoke about this, we've vetted some of the questions here because there is obviously some people that were obviously trying to take the piss. Gary Collins wants to know what age you are.
Gary should know. 56.
56, right, cool. Scott Campbell's question, do you still wear hairspray now that you have to wear a helmet?
Scott, you should know I never wore hairspray, but it's actually crazy to think that'd still be Heineken. I think it was still the Heineken League then. We went, was it 2 seasons or something like that, maybe a couple of seasons, and they checked the insurance, and nowhere in the insurance said that you had to, for an official, you had to wear a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
So we stopped wearing them. And then I was probably the first one to actually get back to wearing the helmet, and I actually wore a helmet and a visor.
Which brings me to my next question. How many visors did you get through last year?
You tell me, you supply me. Probably a bit.
I can't remember who the person was, but they actually asked me if you wore a prescription visor, but we know that that's not the case because they come off the shelf. So, right. So there was a question for Kieran460 on TikTok, and it was what made you or inspired you to be a referee, but you pretty much answered that.
Alec McWilliam, 100%. If it wasn't like, actually, me and Alex, well, I said to Alec last year, mine and Wendy's wedding. I mean, Alex got to be in his 80s now, probably. Health could be a wee bit better, see him back and forward. But as I said to him at our wedding, to see if you look round about the 120 folk of that, other than both mine and Wendy's family, 99% of the people in here I would never have met if it wasn't for Alec convinced me to go in to officiating. Because all the people who were at our wedding, it was all hockey related. Guys I've refereed with, guys I still referee with, guys I maybe played with. So, 100% Alec McWilliam.
Good. Right, so I've got another question from George. It was in TikTok. Who do you look forward to seeing the most when coming to Dundee?
George.
Right, Claire, Kirky Puck. As a new/older skater with hopes of becoming an official, what is the advice you would give with regards to on-ice skills to concentrate and keeping on top of the rulebook?
Oh, try and get on the ice as much as possible, even if it's just public skating. And, well, public skating is probably really about the only chance they're going to get on the ice. Just try and get on the ice as much as possible regarding the rule book. Read it again. Just keep going through it.
Off the top of your head, do you know if there is a process of trying to get into refereeing now? Who you would speak to if there was somebody that you're looking to go and...
Every so often you see Ice Hockey UK putting maybe a post out on Twitter or Facebook saying about maybe some up and coming level 1 courses. I don't have any involvement in that. Couldn't tell you how often they run, where they run, what the cost is. So other than keeping your eye on that, probably through Ice Hockey UK, I've no idea.
Right, okay. Right, take it away for, say for example, the ice hockey, go to football. What's your football team?
There only is one football team, Glasgow Rangers.
So that then brings me to Lewis Gibson's question. If a team wins one title in 13 seasons, is the team still successful?
Is he talking about the most successful club in the world?
It must be. I think that's
Glasgow
the one
Rangers he's talking about.
I genuinely think that's the one he's talking about, aye.
Right.
Stuart McKaig asked, what's the most annoying player you've ever had to deal with?
Stuart McKaig.
Keggers all of that. Stevie Woods, Stevie Wood, I get into trouble for that all the time. I add an S onto this boy's name and he's not got it. Best import you've ever seen?
Oh. There's been a few over quite a lot of years. Doug Smale at Fife. If I remember right, Doug Smale comes straight out the NHL to Fife.
I remember that. I remember seeing him playing at Fife and he was unreal. Nobody could touch him.
Nobody could catch him. You think it, imports who played in the Heineken League, where there only was 3 imports. So predominantly the imports kind of carried the team, unless you had some really good Brits. But guys like Rick Brabant, who then again still played in the Super League, Steve Moria, who I think still played up until he was 40-something.
He played for Nottingham, if you remember. I remember seeing him playing at Nottingham.
Played at Cardiff. He first came into the country, into Fife. And then he also played, I think, Cardiff, maybe in Nottingham, I'm not sure.
That'll be somebody else.
Danny Shea, who played the Ayr, and then at Peterborough. But what a player he was.
Did you ever have the how would I put it, did you share the ice with Gary Unger at all? Were you ever refereeing with him, or did you see him play?
I wasn't that long started when he was at Dundee, I'm pretty sure, and then he was at Peterborough after that. Aye. Obviously he was coming to end his career, but I mean he played something like 1,400 games in the NHL and never missed a game. The Iron Man. But there's been a few. A few.
So Stevie Wood also asked, what's the worst player you've ever had to deal with?
Obviously, I can't say
the current players.
Current players maybe coming into this season or last season, whatever. I would say going back to when I was still on the line would be Barry Nycar at Nottingham. Because you just never knew what was going to happen when he was on the ice. And also Mike Weir.
I was just about to ask about that.
Mike Weir.
Is that because I'm sure there's a video on YouTube somewhere.
There is a Sheffield Cardiff game.
You're trying to split a fight up and he's dragging you in the ice.
Aye. But eventually done the job and he couldn't get to the guy. Actually what had happened was his brother was playing, Greg, and I think it was Nicky Chin had kind of jumped him and leathered him in the corner. Two of them, Chinny was playing for Sheffield, Greg and Mike were playing with Cardiff. Big Heavy would be Cardiff coach then. And when Greg was getting layered in the corner, I think it took 4 players to hold Mike down on the bench. So you just knew it was coming. You just knew the next time that Mike was on the ice and Chinny was on the ice, you just knew it was going to happen. But like quite a few of the kind of guys, you couldn't meet nicer guys off the ice.
So is there somebody that you've met, say for example, from the current Elite League rosters and the teams that are pretty funny, got on well with?
I would say you get a few imports, but predominantly I would say most of the Brits.
The Brits are funnier or just more respectable?
Probably both, aye. Probably both. And maybe plus the fact is you've known them that long. Whereas you maybe have imports coming in one season and they're away, or you get a few who have been here a couple of years now. But I would say predominantly the Brits.
So have you been looking at the signings for some of the Elite League teams? Have you been following any of that? And have you got any thoughts on any of the signings that they've made so far?
A wee bit. Feel sorry for Laura, the commentator at Fife, how she's going to have to try and pronounce all the names that they've signed.
Aye. I don't think they've got... I think they've got to get extra syllables in them, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. Or in Big Bean, that'll be a laugh listening to they two try to pronounce the surnames.
So another one, what Elite League ice rink has the best food? This will put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Sheffield.
They
have their own chef.
Oh, have they?
Aye.
Oh, that's good. Meanwhile, Braehead, you get a hot dog if it's lukewarm at the best. Right, so another question came in from Danny Roy. What's your SNL team?
They'll have one.
Right, so then that kind of leads into me asking, what's your NHL team?
To be honest, I very rarely watch NHL. It used to be Detroit back in the day when it was like Eisenman and the Russians. But to be honest, I can't watch a full game. I get bored. You'd be lucky if I could watch 10 minutes an NHL game, because I just get bored and just switch off.
See, to be honest with you, I feel exactly the same way. I feel bored watching hockey. I'd rather be playing it myself. But so, with that said, your NHL team, what's your favourite Ricky team?
It used to be Air Jets, but obviously they're no longer because I've played with them. But now I've got to say Glasgow Mustangs.
So I'm trying to think if I've got any other questions. So I've already asked you your NHL team. So is there any specific players you looked up to when you were younger? When you were starting out playing?
Here you had the likes of goalie Bernie McCrone, Alistair Reid, John Kidd. There was another guy who had to actually stop because quite a bad injury. It was a guy called Alec Matheson, who represented GB when he played the AR. I think that was under 20s maybe. Even the same GB team along, I think it was under 20s, the likes of Paul Hand and they kind of guys. And it was him, because he actually went to say he was a year or 2 years older than me, went to the same school as me, lived not that far away from me. So he'd been another one, Alec Matheson.
Right, cool. Right, so we're back at it. Being that we're a low budget ice hockey shop, I couldn't afford a bottle of water for myself. We could only afford a bottle of water for our guest. But one of the kind of questions that Pam's just kind of reminded me of is there any kind of life quotes or whatever else that you live by?
No.
Right. What's your favourite ice rink?
Oh. Wembley.
I like that. I only ever went to it once. It was I think it was for the last finals. It was the one that you were meant to be refereeing it. Let me see, what else have we got? Who's your favourite Elite League linesman to work with?
Presently? Presently. Be a toss-up between...
You can say two of them, because there is two of them that you usually...
Aye, because obviously up here, you can normally work with the same guys every weekend, but I'll also include Lee Young in the conversation, because me and Lee Young were linesmen back in the day, and although he's in the South England, back in the day we'd done quite a few games together. We've been friends ever since. He was at my wedding last year. But up here, it's pretty close between, for different and varying reasons, because they've both got their different strengths, is Lewis Gibson and Scott Roger. But I would have to go with Scott Roger because Lewis Gibson is for the dark side.
That means he's a Celtic fan.
He's one of the Mankey mob, so I've got to go with Scott.
Brilliant, brilliant. So a lot of there's another question that's been asked. How did we kind of connect? What was the connection between us? What started the kind of sponsorship and stuff like that we had with yourself?
My recollection is a photograph that Al Gould had taken and had posted on Facebook, sorry, probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe?
Well, we're about
Roughly?
Aye, probably. Because we're about 13-year-old now, so the shop's been here for 13 years. So
Roughly about 10 years ago. And obviously, because it was Al, it was taken in Braehead, and I'm standing watching the play, but the advertising board right in my back is Cold-Blooded Sports. And I think you had messaged me about it or commented on it, and then come up to the shop and see us. Obviously, the old shop just round the corner. Come up, and that was the start of it. 5 or 6 pair of skates later, and about 30 visors and
aye.
jackets and bags, and basically anything I need, yous have gave me over the years.
So one of the things was when Toby started coming to us for sponsorship, it was his skates that was the issue. We had a pair of skates called the Slippers. I think it was a pair of 5,000s, Bauer 5,000s or 6,000s.
6, I think.
These things were hanging in bits. Like, I was never finished repairing them, and it got to the stage where I started looking for another pair of skates for Toby, and then ensued 4 or 5 different pairs of skates, to the point where he would get the nickname Twinkle Toes, which is twinkle toes because his wee feet were sore every time he was in a new pair of skates, and he couldn't get used to anything. But so what are you currently skating in?
Bauer Nexus.
And the fact that we've had these is Nexus 8000s, and they were the first pair of skates that we bought Toby, and he's now had to go back to them. He's looked all the way right back round because they were just too stiff in the beginning. So what was your favourite pair of skates that you've had so far? Would you say it was 6000s or?
Probably any of the pair of the Bauer Supremes, and also the custom ones that you managed to find in Canada.
So I had a wee look on eBay one night, and I found a pair of skates, and this was a brand new custom pair of skates made for someone, and they came full leather on the inside. They were perfect. They were never skated in. The only thing I had to do was change the holders so that Toby had the right steels, because he's very pernickety with his steels and his sharpenings. We'll get to that in a minute. But say for example, we changed that, and how long did you have them for?
Oof, a good amount of years.
I reckon you would have probably had them for
3 maybe.
I think
3
about four. Because it's taken you, I think it's taken you about 6 years to get into the Nexus. You've had another 2 pairs of Nexus in between there as well.
Well, you get the Nexus I'm using just now. You gave me them. You got them in for me at Christmas, and I said, "Oh, I'm no going to try and wear these halfway through a season. We'll start them after the summer." And we went to a training camp, and I think that was the first time I had them on, and they killed my feet. So I think I wore them for maybe about 5, 6 games, and I was like, "Nah, Stevie, I can't wear these." And I think that's when you'd found the custom ones for Canada. So I wore them for 3, 4 seasons, and then they were kind of starting to fall apart at this time. You were fed up repairing them, changing holders. So I didn't want to go back to those Nexus, so we actually done a model. So it wasn't just as rigid.
We went to a pair of N2 7000s, which were basically the kind of mid-range, but they were just too soft.
No.
Obviously, the kind of skate that he was in was a top of the range skate originally, either a 5000 or a 6000 Supreme from ages ago. I say ages ago, put it into perspective, the 8000 came out when I was 16-year-old, so that's about 24-year-old. These skates, like some of these skates at least. So obviously getting Toby into a modern pair of skates and a modern pair of holders has been a bit of a struggle.
Modern skates are garbage. They're too rigid. They're too hard.
Aye.
Where the old custom Supremes, all leather, just like a glove.
Would you ever consider going into a pair of graphs? Have you ever been in graphs?
I skated in graphs once, and what put me off was the dip to the toe.
The pitch in them?
The pitch. And you always felt as if you were going to toe pick and get in. And so, I don't know. Unless you could alter it.
we could obviously put the old holders on them, but would you consider going into a CCM skate at any point?
Skated in CCM when I was a young boy. Tax, super tax, custom tax. And then obviously when the Bauer Supremes came out, went to them. Depends how rigid they are.
Right, okay. So another question I'm going to ask is there anybody else that you'll let touch your skates? I.e. sharpening wise and anything like that?
And unless something happens during a game and I need to like take the blade out, but you know I've got five spare sets of steels in my bag, but so I can put one of the other sets in. But if something happened and I needed to get changed during the game, I'd just change the steels, because as you know, I just come up here and get my skates sharpened before I go and do any games. I would don't want to upset any equipment managers, but the one main guy who I always tried to get to sharpen my skates was Andy Akers at Sheffield. He does a top-notch job.
Good. We'll refrain from saying any of the other equipment managers, because the last couple of times you've had them done for a certain equipment manager, you ended up your arse.
Well,
So hence the reason why he's now got 5 sets of steels, and he still uses what I would class as the poverty spec steels, the steels that are the bottom of the range steels, and he's got 5 pairs of top end steels. But aye. So I know there's obviously been a couple of questions about retirement and stuff like that. When do you see yourself hanging up the skates? And this is a second question. If you were to hang up your skates as a referee, would you take up recreational hockey?
probably not. Probably not.
And what's the reasons behind that?
Because even when I was like saying my early 20s, when I was playing recce, there was always somebody who thought they were going to be a hero because he's a linesman, he's an official, and he would just try and take liberties. And plus I'm getting too old to play. Some might say I'm getting too old to referee right enough, but
well, there's been a few questions about that. Obviously, the age, is there a specific cut off?
No. I don't think you'd be able to have, and that'd be age discrimination, would it not? I think, touch wood, I'm hoping to keep going until the knee gives it, totally gives it. So, we'll see.
So, obviously there was a, hold on, I'll stop here because...
One more questions for you.
Right, okay. Right. So another question, Pam's just gave me another wee list of questions here. How does it feel to get heckled, and does it affect you?
No.
Thick skinned.
To be fair, like during the game, you don't really hear it because of the glass. Yeah, when you're maybe walking on or walking off at the end of the periods, you maybe hear it, but it's probably no end I've never heard in 38 years. I can't think any new ones in 38 years. So, the only thing I will say to that is, like fans, like the keyboard warriors, the faceless profiles on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, they can go in and say really whatever they want about me, because I really don't care. And oh, he's a Braehead fan, or he's a Fife fan, or he's a Dundee fan. I'm a fan of only one team, as you well know, and that's Glasgow Rangers. I couldn't care less who wins at hockey. I have no care in the world about it. But going back to the keyboard warriors, who I've probably watched hockey for 10 years. Couldn't tell you anything about rules. Probably listen to some guy next to them shouting about something and they'll think, oh, he must know, so that's right. They pay their money, can shout whatever they want. About me,
The one thing I will say is I've been at games before and Toby's not even been refereeing and people still shout Toby because they think all the referees are called Toby. There's only one Toby, as everybody well knows.
as I say, they pay their money, they can shout whatever they want about me up until a certain point. Once they start involving my wife and my family, that's a total different ballgame.
Yeah, I can understand.
But what they also need to realise is they pay their money, shout whatever they want. See, once that final buzzer goes, that's when their money runs out. I mean, umpteen times by the time I've drove home, it's see all the notifications or all the comments. I don't care. You're wasting your time.
Right. Another question Pam asked, is there anything you still have on your bucket list as a referee? Like, would you like to do, say for example, if the NHL come over for a game like they did before with Belfast and there was an opportunity to referee it, would you bite the hand off to go and do the game?
When I was younger, I think I'm too old for that now.
You're still quite quick on a pair of skates. I mean,
Aye, but we're talking NHL guys here though.
So what you're saying is the Elite League isn't as fast as it used to be?
No. The Elite League's getting faster every year. Thank God we went to a 4-man system. Which is the best thing that the Elite League have ever done. What you've got to remember is probably 99% of every player in the Elite League is a full-time job. So they maybe play 2 or 3 games a week. Train, rest, play games, on a bus, go there. Where I'd probably say every official has a daytime job. I'm kind of lucky, I work Monday to Friday. So I'm usually, depending where it is, normally okay for midweek games. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm fine for refereeing. But wherever I'm refereeing, I'm driving there. Maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours if it's, say, Scotland. Or if I'm driving down to Nottingham or driving down to Sheffield, Manchester, so you're driving. You're not getting any chance to relax. You're driving there for 2 hours before the game. You do the game, and obviously you've got to drive home. And then it doesn't matter whether it's I'm getting in at midnight, 2:30 on the Sunday morning. It's the same routine. And my wife takes my sweat kit, it gets washed. The heating goes on for half an hour, and once the washing's done, all my kit's on the radiators, ready to go again the next day. And then it can be the same again on the Sunday, and then back to work first thing Monday morning.
Would you say that there is a calling for full-time officials in the Elite League?
There's no any money for that.
Well, if in a perfect world, would you say that if all the teams got together and, say for example, paid a fee at the start of the year to cover certain things, do you think you would? Could you see that happening in British hockey?
No, because there's no money for it. No for officials. No for officials, isn't it? There isn't any money there to have that.
So another thing with regards to the replays and stuff like that, do you think that that's been a good thing that's been brought in this year or over the last couple of years?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The only, I can't say problem, for us as officials, all going well, it works. Warm-up starting to the end of the game. But it can be a simple thing, whereas if it's maybe a camera or a GoPro or something like that, it's maybe attached to the top of the plexi. Puck hits the plexi in the warm-up, camera's done. So if the camera's not working at one end, we can't use it because you can't just go on whatever team it is, it's going to have that camera for 2 periods.
Yep.
It's no fair, so you just don't go with it. And it can be fine at the beginning of the game, and then sometimes you'll maybe notice during the game, at a stoppage of play, the timekeeper will hit the buzzer and shout us over, and they'll say it could be something's happened with the internet or whatever is done. So we've just got to tell the 2 coaches and play on, and hopefully it gets resolved.
Is there any of the coaches that gives you a right hard time? Or is there anybody you've found that's been quite difficult to deal with as a at the games?
Yeah. I can probably say it now because he's not an active coach. But, Finner was always tough to deal with.
Aye.
Aye.
Any specific thing that you can think of the top of your head?
Nah, not really in specific, but no, he was always pretty tough. But Finner's the kind of guy, as quite a lot of coaches, they wear their heart on their sleeve. So if they think there's maybe a penalty been missed or whatever, but 9 times out of 10, you're not really going to win the argument when you go to that bench because they're ranting and raving. They think they're right.
Mm.
So you kind of let them blow off steam, get the game going, and it can be a shift, 2 shifts later, if there's a stoppage or even skating by, and you give them a wee shout, and by that time they've calmed down. Aye, okay, you're right, aye. But aye, it's fine.
So one of the questions that had been asked before, I can't remember who it was that had asked the question. Do you feel that the instant replays and stuff like that puts a stop on momentum at any point in the game? So example being, if you've had a team that's just scored and they have to go and get it reviewed, do you feel like it can cut the momentum of a game a wee bit?
Possibly, but realistically, at the end of the day, you want to make sure everything's right.
Aye. Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much for Toby and his time.
No problem.
Look forward to sponsoring you again.
Before we go, I'd just like to say thanks to Stevie and Pam for probably at least, 10, 12 years maybe, of sponsoring me every season. Anything I want, anything I need. Stevie, beginning the season, said, what do you need, what do you want? I'm probably up here about a dozen times during the season, but just for visors alone. But just to thank the both of you, it's always much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time, and thanks any time, man. Honestly, again, this boy gets a hard rap, but as you've hopefully maybe seen, you maybe see a different side of Toby, not just the side with the stripes on that you want to shout at. But thanks very much for your time again.
You're welcome.
Thanks, pal.